I'm supposed to be the franchise player, and we're in here talking about practice. I mean, listen, we talking about practice. Not a game, not a game, not a game. We talking about practice. Not a game, not a game.
Me. Bam, bam. Me, man.
Not a game.
Slap that like she scored 30.
What are we even talking about, man? We talking about sports here.
Dun-dun-dun. It's happened, guys. It's happened. Aaron Rodgers showed up. Did you guys expect him to show up? I mean,
No.
He showed up pretty casually. Like he just won the lottery.
I didn't expect him to show up, especially last week when I was getting newsfeed alerts saying he's mulling retirement. I thought, Green Bay doesn't want to give in. They've already drafted his replacement. This is a done deal for him. He's done. I didn't see any mutual agreements happening that was going to bring him back, but I was wrong. So
before I give my take, I got to open one of these for the boys. I saw him. I saw him coming back. He's not a guy who's going to sit out a season. I don't think that's in his character. Just like he talked about in the press conference, he's down for the boys. He's down for the guys in the locker room. He wasn't going to let them out there, just have the season without him. And I think it's a little subtle jab still at drafting Jordan Love, because everybody was like, oh, Jordan Love, he's the guy now with all this turmoil going on. And he's like, wait just a second there, Jordan Love. You ain't going in the starting lineup just yet, pal. So I think he played it to perfection. He waited to the last minute. He got his money. He got out of the deal when he wanted. And it's his last what were we talking about, Ben?
The last
dance. So
His last dance, yeah.
Yep.
He posted the Instagram, the little subliminal of the Jordan's last dance, Jordan and Scotty, and so did Devontae Adams, who was also, had ended contract talks with the Packers and said, I'm done discussing a new deal. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers comes back. They cut that last year of his deal off of his contract, so he'll be an unrestricted free agent after this season. One last go-around, the Packers already went out and traded a 6th-round pick for Randall Cobb. So Randall Cobb is back to being Aaron Rodgers' number 2 receiver, I would say. Now that he's back there, even though 31-year-old Randall Cobb, but if you're in a full-point PPR league, Randall Cobb
is a flex.
He's going to be the number 2. So they're giving Rodgers what he wants. Devontae Adams is back in contract negotiations with the Packers. So obviously this fixed the situation. And I honestly think that Devontae Adams was the main reason. Like Ron said, he didn't want to leave the boys out there, but what boys does he really have out there besides Devontae Adams and maybe the O-line? For the most part, the back,
the whole team,
and the
whole team wanted him to come back. Without him, they don't win a championship.
No, I feel you for that part, but I'm talking about guys that have been through the ringer. They're with him, like Aaron Jones, and those guys are rather new. AJ Dillon, guys are gone. So I think Devontae Adams as well posting that last dance picture. I think that was the deciding factor. And Devontae Adams' fantasy value just skyrockets way back up to the top.
Skyrockets back up. The Packers' odds to win the NFC North, they automatically become favorites.
Yeah.
Just a little fact check, though, Ben. He still is going to be under contract in 2022. The agreement was to knock off 2023, and then they're going to revisit his status at the end of the year and trade him, per se, to a team of his choice.
Okay.
Either way, major concession.
Yeah.
I've never seen this happen before. A guy just say, "Hey, I'm not coming in. I'm going to retire if we don't see some concessions here. I don't want to be here anymore." I need to walk back my initial take because when I saw him show up for training camp, I thought, what was all of this for? Just for him to show up day one of training camp, and not really take any fines or anything, but he got the major concession. I think he walks away a big winner here. I think the Packers walk away a winner a little bit here too. They get their guy for one more year.
And all the rumors were that Love, they weren't ready to start him until next season. That was the plan. So the Packers did get their way as well.
I think the fans of Green Bay got what they wanted too. They didn't have to see Rodgers last year. Obviously not go to the Super Bowl and not end the Rodgers era with some, BS. At least he came back for the team, for the fans. He's going out his way. He gave the fans what they wanted to. And I mean, if you're anybody but the Green Bay front office right now, you're feeling good about this season because he threw the Green Bay front office under the bus in that 32-minute press conference, man.
Yeah, I think great press conference. I think everybody wins. Like you said, Ron, the fans. I think even the front office wins. They have a whole year to figure out this trade and figure out the decision and piece it together. So they have a timeline now as well, a full fucking season, bro. So I think everybody came out a winner. I mean, we know Jordan Love. We're gonna get Jordan Love next year. Let's just see what the Packers can pick up in the process of trading Aaron Rodgers. What would you all say, like his asking price is worth? Because he's going to be rather older, probably one more contract left in his career. What do you all think Aaron Rodgers demands in the trade market?
He's going to demand at least a first-round pick and maybe a player, maybe a player of worth and a first-round pick.
Okay.
So I do have a question because Aaron Rodgers said that Green Bay is not a hot destination. It's mostly because of him that players go there. So I got to ask y'all, can you see a player who's, going to be a free agent next year go sign with Green Bay knowing that Aaron Rodgers is not going to be there? What kind of future do they hold as far as luring these free agents towards Green Bay now?
If the money's right, will they spend? I think it comes down to
they spend, and you guys saw their balance sheet got leaked. The Green Bay Packers are like they're a company. They don't have one owner, right? It's all the people at Green Bay. It's public. Yeah, so their balance sheet got released and they're loaded with cash. I know they have to play within the cap and stuff, but it just brought up the question of why haven't they really broken the bank in the past? Like why can't they find a way to pay Davante Adams and make him the number one receiver, which I think is interesting, and we'll probably talk a little bit more about it when we get into the NFC North. Is does he get paid? Because he's likening his deal to they were using the comparison. Who recently reset the market at receiver?
Hopkins?
Yes, it was Hopkins. D-Hop. Yes.
Or in the 80s?
Yeah, he's looking for.
Or was it Diggs? It was Hopkins or Diggs?
I think it was Hopkins. That's the reference that I heard in the podcast I was listening to, and they're saying that deal is so far out of whack that. Adams starting there is doing himself a disservice. So I don't know. I think that's a good question. If Adams will get paid, or if he's going to look to go elsewhere.
Well, he's going to be putting up the numbers with Rodgers there at least. So, like in the NFL, I mean, their career's a lot more short-lived. So, Justin, like I said, if the money's right, we'll see some players go to teams that we wouldn't have thought they would have been at, but because of the amount of the contract, they ended up playing for that team. And it doesn't even always work out. Like we see. The Texans signed Randall Cobb to a deal that he had no business being paid.
So what do you guys think about because I was going to ask if you guys thought that the Packers are guaranteed to get back to at least the NFC Championship this year, or if you thought that with what's looming and Aaron Rodgers leaving, if it's kind of like one foot out the door and if the success isn't going to be there this year because of that.
Going back to the NFC Championship is hard. Now you're asking for a third one. I don't see it, guys. I just don't see it.
As a Cowboy fan, anything is possible with Aaron Rodgers as your quarterback, bro. Anything is possible. We've seen it, huh? The only thing is defensively, I don't think they were that strong last year. I know they were involved in a lot of high scoring games, if I'm not mistaken, and you kind of had to have that Rodgers miracle play or a big lead, kind of like what we said. Yeah, last guy with the ball has to be Rodgers, kind of like what we had talked about with the Russell Wilson situation in Seattle. But to answer your question, I mean, the NFC is a toss-up. I mean, obviously, I think the Cowboys are going to be there, but Dak's shoulder's already screwed up. So, to answer your question, man, I mean, I could see Green Bay there, especially if it's the last year. Rodgers is going to want to ball out. He's going to want to prove, the front office wrong, that they should have paid him. They should have drafted Love and yada, yada, yada. So strong chance for the Packers to get back.
I think if they get the first round bye, I don't see how they wouldn't make the NFC Championship game, to be honest. And I think getting the first round bye is pretty doable with, a not so good Lions team. You got Andy Dalton starting for the Bears, and then Kirk Cousins or Aaron Rodgers. If they get the first round bye, I mean, that's the way that they've been doing it. If I'm not mistaken, they had the first round bye last year, won one game, and they were there. So if they get that first round bye, I see them there. If they don't, I don't.
Good point. Good point there.
And there's only going to be one first round bye next year, so you got to think it's probably going to be between the Bucs and them. if we're not being biased, maybe
The
with how bad
Rams?
the division's too tough, and the Cowboys have a chance with how weak the division is. But you got to think it's going to come down to the Bucks and the Packers.
Brady versus Rodgers all over again.
One last time, right?
We'll see what happens with the NFC North. But today, we're covering the AFC North, the opposite of the NFC North. And this, in my opinion, is one of the stronger divisions now, with the Browns being a better team than they were in seasons past. Now the Bengals have taken that downfall. They will, I think, have Joe Burrow back, I believe, Roland. Is that so? Is he healing up right?
Yeah, he's already ready for practice, I think.
He looked good, in the rookie season as far as, the amount of time he played until he got injured, but we'll see. So, Roland, I know you want to break down some of the Steelers first, so let's get into this.
But yeah, man, let's lay it out. We're starting at the top. Let's do a little review, kind of like we did
last year, Roland. Let's
the NFC West. Yeah,
2020 rewind.
Let's look at 2020. The year of COVID, right? We talked about with the NFC West. We saw the Steelers go ahead and take first place. They had that what seemed to be improbable 11-0 run, what a lot of people were calling a sham, had a lot of people feeling bamboozled.
Had the boys talking crazy.
Yeah, had a lot of people talking crazy. Had Juju thinking it was fine to be on TikTok at all hours. But,
on the sideline.
Did they come crashing down? They finished the season 12-4. They were 7-1 at home. They're very strong at Heinz Field. They're always pretty strong at home. 5-3 on the road. 4-2 against the division, and they ended up losing in the wild card to the Browns. The score is a little deceiving. It was 37-48.
Browns by 9.
But if anybody watched that game, it was nasty. That started off bad, and it was ugly throughout the way. And
it was over.
Justin alluded to it, and we'll talk a little bit. Pause for a little debate here. Do you guys have the AFC North ahead of the NFC West in terms of the toughest division?
Go ahead, Justin.
For me, I do.
That claim, Justin?
For me, I do, just because we've seen at least 2 of these AFC North teams the past 5 years make the playoffs. So,
there's a pathway to 3 possibly this year.
Yeah, there's a pathway now for 3, just like last season. So,
yeah,
I see them as the tougher one.
I personally, I like the NFC West. I think they're better offensively as a whole. And I'm a big believer in the 49ers this year. So I would stick with the NFC West there.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the NFC West as well, just because I think that the Cardinals are better than the Bengals. And I think that the Cardinals are at the bottom of that division. The Bengals would be at the bottom of this division.
Stronger, I get you.
And we also expect the Steelers. Well, I mean, at least I do. I'm not going to speak for everybody, but I expect the Steelers to take a step down this year as well. Just based off the way Big Ben finished off the year and, him coming back. It might be his last hurrah too. We'll get into that.
And he's losing some offensive line. So,
but yeah, I'd go with the NFC West.
And what about you, Ron?
Give me the Browns, man. Baker, baby, Baker.
Taking another step.
Coming out of that NFC division, I think I had the Rams up there, and they still have a first-year quarterback. Their defense, I mean, obviously on a pedestal, way up there. But the Browns defense ain't half bad either. And if you have an offense that's been together longer than the Rams offense has, I could see. I mean, every year everybody kind of says it, right? Like, this is a Browns year. This is a Browns year. But finally, after kind of jumping those hurdles last year and getting further than they ever have, this is the year, man. This is the year. So I will take them.
Ron, but we're talking about the division as a whole, like all 4 teams.
Who's better, the NFC West?
The 49ers, Seahawks, Rams, Cardinals, or the Ravens, Browns, Steelers, Bengals? Which is a tougher division?
I mean, I would say it's kind of a wash for me because I mean, you can't. No. Watch it. Look, if you would have asked me,
for somebody who lives on the edge, that was a whack ass answer.
No, I mean, if you were to say who's a better division, the division we're going over today, or like the NFC East. Yeah. Then it's like, okay, that's clear cut right there. But these, I mean, out of these 8 teams, the Rams, the Niners, the Cardinals, and the Seahawks versus, the teams we're talking about today, and the Steelers, the Ravens, the Browns, and the Bengals. I mean, can you honestly sit here and say right off the bat, this is better than that? Or would you have to kind of be like, let me deep dive? So there's just not a clear cut answer right away is all I'm saying.
I kind of go with Ben. I like the Cardinals, as a better third team than the Steelers. The better fourth team actually, and I think they're better than the Steelers. So we'll get into that though, because we're on the Steelers right now. Just to finish, dressing them up and what happened with them in 2020. They had 9 games decided by touchdown, 7 points or less. We like to talk about these close games. They had 9 games decided by 7 points or less, and they were 7-2 in those games. So that helped them out a lot down the stretch. Usually that is a sign for regression. A couple of their notable props for the 2021 season, if we want to look at those. They're plus 4,000 to win the Super Bowl. That's probably like double of what they were last year, probably more.
You're only taking that shit if you're a fan. Let's be real, bro. Let's be real.
To win the AFC Championship, they're plus 2,000. To win the AFC North, now that's the most important one here because we're talking about their division. They're plus 450, so that would put them third. Vegas thinks they're going to finish third. Their season win total, they're at over 8.5. Big Ben to win MVP. If you guys are a fan out there, Big Ben making a comeback, plus 5,500. TJ Watt to win DPOY, plus 850. And a bet that I think might have a little bit of legs here, if you want to throw away some lunch money, is Najee Harris to win Offensive Rookie of the Year at plus 600.
Are those odds high enough for a running back, though, Roland?
Probably not, but I think it says a little bit about Vegas's faith in Najee Harris because I think those are pretty short odds relative to the field.
Yeah, they are.
So they do believe in Najee Harris making an impact. But as we also like to talk about here, is what they did in the offseason. They added some edge help with Melvin Ingram. I'm not going to go through the whole list. I'm going to name a couple of them. Melvin Ingram is a notable name. They added him, I think, last week or the week before. Miles Killebrew, he's a safety linebacker hybrid. They got Joe Haig to help out the offensive line. Like we noted, they spent a first-round draft pick on Najee Harris, and they also got Trey Turner. He's not listed there. I don't know how I missed that, but Trey Turner.
Player?
No, I don't think he's related.
The Natties?
I don't
think Trey Turner is big enough to play offensive tackle. The Trey Turner you guys are talking about. Yeah,
that might be why their whole life trash, though. Roland.
Yeah, they got him pretty much to replace Marquise Pouncey, who retired. Who else left? Alejandro Villanueva, the right tackle. We were talking about this offensive line. They lost some guys. They also lost James Conner. He found himself with the Cardinals. We talked about that last week. Mike Hilton, a cornerback. That secondary takes a little bit of a hit. He signed with the Bengals. And they also lost their safety to the Colts and Sean Davis. Now, one thing that we talked about earlier was their start. They started 11-0, and a lot of that was thanks to a cupcake schedule. I think we can all agree it was pretty weak schedule.
Some arguments about that too, Roland. With
we got some bite back or some fight from them, but I mean nothing
pushback.
Don't expect anything less from those guys.
And you gotta expect it when you're 11-0.
Yep,
shit, I would be talking my shit too. I ain't gonna front.
And how mad would you be if somebody was calling your 11-0 a sham and not real?
If we're not in a bubble at Disney, it's legit. I'm not gonna question it then.
For sure. But I say that to say their 2021 schedule is ranked number 1, and I think a lot of that is to do with they're getting tangled with Buffalo to start off the season. They got a series. They have a series against the NFC West. They played the whole NFC West and they played the whole AFC West, I think. Or no, they played the whole. NFC North and they played the whole AFC West. Chicago. So a lot of former playoff teams in that mix. So I don't see an 11-0 start for them, to say the least.
Shit.
What do you guys think?
I say under 8.5 on the total is the play for me. I put them at max 7 wins.
Don't you have a wager already, Ron? With somebody?
And that's a reach. That's a fantasy reach on the 7 wins, man. Because their last 6 games are brutal. I mean, you play Baltimore, then you go to Minnesota, then you play Tennessee, then you go to KC, then you play Cleveland, then you go to Baltimore. I mean, I have them winning. I have them winning 6 games, maybe 7 in the division. I think they're toward the bottom. They may be split with Cincinnati, but I mean, I see maybe wins over Vegas, Denver, Detroit, maybe Chicago. That's maybe a way they can get their wins. But the best bet to me here, man, is under 8.5 wins for the Steelers. And yes, Diego DeMarchi, I'm coming for that money, baby.
I see them at 3-3 going into the bye week, but then after that, it gets really, really sketchy for me.
And that's not good to have that early bye week for this team, Roland, who last year was plagued with a shitload of injuries. That's honestly was part of their downfall, was Bud Dupree going down on defense. I mean, they had guy after guy going down last year. So they got that early bye week, and that's never good, especially when the NFL's adding that extra game.
So what do you have them slotted at, Ben? What's your record?
I have them around 7-8 wins, but I think that it's close. I personally have them splitting with the Ravens one game. I do give them one game over the Ravens. They always play the Ravens tough. They do have the best grip on containing Lamar. It's just always a
the defense is still there. The defense
is still there. It is going to be there. Like I said,
let's give them that credit.
They did lose, a couple of guys.
Bud Dupree.
Bud Dupree. They lost Bud Dupree, and they are trying to
get Melvin Ingram
with Melvin Ingram, but it's an older Melvin Ingram.
Yeah,
there's a reason
somewhat of a wash there.
There's a reason the Chargers let him walk. I don't think it's a wash. I think Bud Dupree is better. He definitely is better after the injury. Then maybe, Justin, I see your argument because Bud Dupree did get hurt last year, right? He was one of the bigger injuries. Yeah, that's a big injury, but you got to think the defense is going to be there. I think, honestly, out of all the plays on here, T.J. Watt to win Defensive Player of the Year is the best play, just because a lot of people thought that he got robbed last year.
Sure,
I don't know.
Don't you have to be in contention for that, though?
No, you don't.
Okay.
You don't always got to be in contention, because I think Donald has won it like the last couple of years, and the Rams haven't been the greatest all of those years.
Good point.
We've seen it in baseball where Mike Trout wins MVP and the Angels suck. I know it, and Ohtani's going to win it this year and they suck. Different sport, but I just feel like a lot of people thought that TJ Watt might have been robbed last year, and he's a good little poster boy to have up there, So I think those are the best odds, plus 850. I don't know what Steelers to miss the playoffs are. I know that maybe not everywhere offers
to make
that
playoffs are plus 160. So it's going to be juiced. So
it is.
To miss is probably like minus 200 or minus 190, maybe something like that. You're looking at
if it's plus 160. Close. I mean, 2 points to you, Ben, on the TJ Watt Defensive Player of the Year. You could see the Steelers defense on the field a lot more than the offense, so it'll give them a chance to get more sacks, to get more knockdowns, to get more, to get a sack leader. And super side note, Ohtani does not get the credit that he deserves, man. That guy,
he's a beast.
The modern era Babe Ruth, and he gets no love.
Sure.
But let's stick with the NFL.
Stephen A. Smith ain't here, cuz.
If I were to look at some bets on there, I would agree with Ron on the season total over under 8.5. I do like that because I have them slotted at 6 and 11.
There we go.
I do see them
6 rolling.
One of them I do agree is against the Ravens. I think they get one off against the Ravens. Like I said, I had them 3-3, and I think that they can win those 2 games against Chicago and Detroit. But I have them losing pretty much almost every game after that. And they think they get that game against the Ravens to December 5th.
I think they split with the Ravens, split with the Bengals.
Yeah, because I don't think they can win any of their. If the season's going the way that it's going, I mean, they're going to lose in Minnesota. I give Tennessee that game, and then
Kansas City.
They're going to lose in Kansas City. I take Cleveland towards the end of the year. I imagine they'd be fighting for the AFC North at that point.
Or Cleveland could already have locked it up though, maybe with that 7. But
I don't see them getting to 8 or even 9. You need 9 to catch.
You need 9. Yeah, you need 9 to lose.
There's no way in hell they win 9 games this year.
No way in hell, baby. Yeah, right.
Unless Big Ben has a bounce back year.
Hey, I'm the only Big Ben. If that's your play, back, it's me. All right,
that's what you're relying on.
Yeah, there you go, Roland. Justin, if that's what you're relying on, Big Ben to have a bounce back year, you might as well.
Justin, you don't have them going 17-0, Justin.
No, that was my little text joke in the text thread, but no, I actually have them going 7 and 10.
Okay,
I have them at the under. I do like the Najee Harris play. I have been talking to some fantasy friends of mine and telling them, hey, if you can pick up Najee in the end, you might want to look at that one or two times.
I'm glad you brought that up. I'm glad you brought that up.
But Justin said if you could pick him up at the end. What are we talking about the end, Justin?
Well, you're not going to. I mean, obviously, you're not going to waste your first 3 picks on Najee.
Well, he's going third. He's going third round, fourth round.
I'm glad you brought that up. We all have them.
If you get him after that, it'd be perfect.
We all have them being a pretty bad team this year. We don't, and nobody has them over 500. But that doesn't mean that there's not some fantasy value on a bad team. We see some bad teams put up some good points in terms of individual players on fantasy weekend. So, Ben, why don't you take us away with our fantasy talk for the Steelers?
Well, let's just talk about Najee Harris. Like Roland said, what are the expectations for Najee Harris? Obviously, they lose James Conner. The other running back stable that they see, McFarland and those guys, they seem to be more of like guys that you kind of just insert every now and then for kind of change of pace. They don't seem to be the workhorse. They go out and waste a first-round pick on an Alabama running back, guys who are known to be horses in the league, right? So he's going to be the starter off the gate. Boom, week 1. The problem, Roland, the O-line. How many times will he be met in the backfield? You know,
he's going to be met in the backfield, but let's put it this way
starters,
too.
So obviously,
and they replaced him. I mean, depending on what you believe in the replacements that they got for those guys, but let's just look at it this way: they didn't lose, but Connor left. Najee Harris is going to be the main guy. He's a good pass catcher. He's going to be the guy. The offensive line is a little questionable, but they have that stable of receivers to where you have to respect their pass game, and you're not going to be able to stack it up on Najee Harris. So I do see a way for Najee Harris to end the year as an RB2, and I would be thinking about spending that mid-round pick on him, especially if you were one of those guys that didn't grab a running back necessarily with your first or your second pick. If you catch my drift.
What if you go running back first round? Do you pick up maybe Najee Harris in the third round to be your RB2?
What's his ADP?
It's late third, early fourth. So that's where he's going. Either the third or the fourth round.
If I can get him on the turn in the fourth round, I'll take him there.
Reach,
run.
They're gonna be down, dude. They're. I mean, am I?
He's a good pass catcher.
Yeah, no, he is, but they're going to be down a lot. And I think, like you said, those wide receivers that you have to look out for. And then Big Ben, I mean, yes, they've ran the ball out with Connor. He, broke out and all this stuff, a couple years ago. But he's still a rookie. And just like Ben said, how many times is he going to get met in the backfield? 21 Savage, a lot. So that's what I think, man. So, I mean, if he falls to me, what do you say, third, fourth? I mean, if he's there, he's probably not going to be, but depending, he might be in an 8-man league, in a 10-man league. If he's there 6th round, maybe 5th, I would, but third to fourth to me is just
Najee Harris or Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
I'll take Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
I'll take Najee. We didn't even see Clyde last year.
What I wanted to ask though, I'm glad that's a good question, Ben. What about Najee Harris versus Travis Etienne, just rookie running back?
Oh, that's for sure Najee Harris.
Najee Harris all day?
The Jaguars still have Robinson scored up last year. Yeah. We don't exactly know what Etienne's workload is going to be. I think that's 100%. I mean, Etienne's going 5th or 6th round. Okay. So Najee Harris is
PPR league. I'd look Etienne's way because he's already been talked about as being utilized as a receiver more.
Yeah.
Okay, so one more for Najee Harris. Najee Harris or Joe Mixon? They're right there in ADPs.
We still got to get to the Bengals though, Roland.
Okay, we'll save that one then.
I'll save that one.
Okay, all right. What else is on the docket for fantasy with the Steelers? What else do you like there?
Listen, the backfield for the most part, those other guys, like we said, if anything happens to Najee Harris, those guys will be guys that get picked up off the waiver wire, but we're not really worrying much about the backfield. I don't think anybody's drafting Big Ben, right? I mean, you're mostly going to be in 10 or 12-man leagues. Big Ben will he be a top 10, top 12 quarterback? I don't think that we expect that, right?
Hell no.
So I don't think aside from on the backfield portion, all we have to talk about is Najee Harris. We all seem to like him. Some of us a little more than others. I think if I get him in the 4th round, I wouldn't mind taking him. but I want him as a flex. I don't even want him as an RB2, to be honest.
Okay.
Let's go to the wide receivers.
Good point.
Let's go to the wide receivers, because the wide receivers is where you have the guys who this is where it's almost like I want to do date one, fuck one, date one, kill one, or whatever that game is.
They're all around the same ADP. They're in that range.
So the ADP is going Johnson first. It's going Claypool around after that 7th, 8th. Johnson's going in the 5th or 6th, and then Juju in the 8th or 9th. 9th is kind of a stretch. But, I mean, Juju was the guy, wasn't he, for the Steelers when Antonio Brown was there and, getting all the attention. Juju was eating in that offense.
Guy. Yeah. Short to mid-range guy.
How do you all feel based off of the draft position? Who would you feel most comfortable drafting based on where they're going? If any.
None of them, to be quite honest. I think it's going to be a little bit like Russian roulette. Like, you just never know which one's going to pop off any given week. Like, it reminds me of, like, the Saints when they had all those guys where they could just go off at any given week when Drew Brees was slinging it along. You just never know. Deontay Johnson, if I had to choose, would probably be him, because I think he has the most, like, ability in terms of, I think he's the best route runner out of the group. And I think he's probably the fastest in terms of being able to take the top off the defense. So you have the long ball threat with him there.
He also got the most targets last year.
So I like Deontay Johnson, but he just seems to not be able to put it together for whatever reason, to be a consistent and viable receiver threat. It's just whenever you get to that range of receivers, you're really just guessing at that point, to be, in my opinion, because receivers are a dime a dozen. We've found that out to be, unless you're –
and you don't always want to take the crowded wide receiver room. Like, do we have any love for Chase Claypool, Ron? Justin?
No, I mean, this isn't the same situation, but it kind of reminds me of the Cowboys situation when you have Cooper, and then you got Lamb, then you have Gallup. I mean, it's maybe – it's not exactly the same, but what happened to Zeke's production when you had Dak with those three guys? It's like you want to see Dak throw the ball downfield, and you want to see these receivers, and Zeke kind of took a little back seat with the same situation, a banged up offensive line. So fantasy value, as far as the receivers go, I'm just staying away. I'm staying away from the Pittsburgh receivers. They did have issues with drops last year, so, I mean, you can't even count on that to say, okay, I'm going to take this guy because he's an automatic, catch at least. And they were, worrying about a lot of drops. And I think Big Ben said something one of the weeks, he was like, hey, man, I'm putting the ball out there. If these guys can't make the catch, and we saw that with Claypool a lot, and they were touchdowns. It wasn't like he was hitting them on slants. It was dropping dimes that Ben was throwing in the end zone.
And Claypool, very touchdown dependent. So, like, for Deontay Johnson, who we would all, I guess, deem as the best receiver out of the group, but like him or Lockett, who are you drafting?
Lockett.
Justin?
Let's lock it.
Yeah, and for me also, no-brainer Lockett, and they're both going around the same rounds. I want to stay away from this wide receiver core. I do think that Johnson is the best option just based off of targets. Justin, where are you at? Are you touching any of them?
No, the only one I was going to touch would be Harris, but this wide receiver core,
Najee? Okay.
I'm not with it.
So
like, after all this analysis, I'm Justin staying off him after all our analysis.
I guess this kind of like sums up and determines why everybody's down on the Steelers this year, based off the over/under, why we see it so low for a team who's pretty much always been a guaranteed playoff team under Mike Tomlin.
Never been under 500 with Mike Tomlin, I don't believe.
And Mike Tomlin has been on the hot seat. Do we see, if they do have that bad of a year, do we see it heat up more? Or is he kind of safe rolling? What's his contract situation like?
I don't know his contract situation, but just to answer your question, I do think if it goes bad, I think we can just see a complete overhaul of the team, where new quarterback, new head coach, just select his guy depending how bad it goes. I definitely can see Mike Tomlin on the out. Not saying that he deserves to be on the out, but sometimes
he does.
It's just one of those things. So
he just got an extension.
He just got one of
those things where you hear the same message over and over. Sometimes it just wears on a team, and no matter how good of a coach you are, the team just is dead. Like, you can't bring him to life anymore.
He's been known to be a pretty good player's coach, so obviously he just got an extension, Ron, so he's not going to be out. But if we do have anybody who thinks that maybe Tomlin isn't the guy and you're a Steelers fan, let us know. Ron, what's your take on Tomlin?
my final, well, one, he tripped a guy on the sideline. I'm always going to go back to that. Look,
Kobe
I mean,
Jones.
a lot of people are going to consider that G and give us some shit because you know they are. Not everybody can pull that shit off.
This is my final take on the Steelers. If we're going to, just put a little bow on it. When you go out and you get Dwayne Haskins as your backup quarterback, that's all I got to say about the Steelers this season, bro. Just quoting today. I'm going to be quoting today. I'm going to be quoting the Little Giants, man, right here. Stick a fork in them. They're done, baby.
No way to over 8.5. Take the under. Take the under.
That's the play. And it's an 18 game season this year, so that they can't even 17. Oh, I'm sorry, 17. Yeah, so they got an extra week. So I mean, and even then they're under 9. So
I'm right on the fence. I'm right on the fence as far as your team total. I do lean towards the under, but I don't know if I want to make it. I don't feel that safe about it, just based off the fact that they've always been to the playoffs, and you just expect better from the Steelers.
I'll join Ron on the bandwagon.
I expect them to finish third in the division. Is where I expect them to finish.
I have them third too. And that's just to say something about where I think the Bengals are going to finish too. So we'll get to that. We're moving on. Like I said, we started at the top. We gave the Steelers their credit for winning the division last year, but
get them out of here.
Unfortunately, you got to get them out of here, and you got to move on. You got to move on. So if you're Steelers fans, I hope you still listen past that part of the podcast if you didn't turn it off already, because we are going to talk about your rival. We're about to talk about your rival, a team that we're a lot higher on. I would all say is the Baltimore Ravens. Mm-hmm. They were second place in the division last year. They finished 11-5. They were 5-3 at home, 6-2 on the road, 4-2 against the division, and they ended up losing in the divisional round against the Bills. They finally won that playoff game. They beat the Titans, but they ended up losing to the Bills 3-17. Couldn't muster a score. The Bills played a great game, but to cap off their season, they finished it on a 5-game win streak, 6 if you include that divisional round. It was looking a little sketchy for them at one point. So they finished on a 5-game win streak. They were 6-5, and they turned their season around. Credit to them. Made it all the way to that divisional round. And like I said, Lamar Jackson finally won that playoff game. 6 games decided by a touchdown. You're going to be surprised here. They were 2-4 in those games. I think the big storyline for the Ravens this year is, can they take that next leap? Can they, make it to the Super Bowl? Can they get to the AFC Championship game, challenge the Chiefs, challenge the Bills a little bit better than they did last year? And I think Vegas sees a path for them to at least be in that play at the end of the year, because they have them plus 900 to win the AFC Championship, plus 1,600 to win the Super Bowl. They're the favorites to win the AFC North slightly at plus 135. Wow. And their over-under is over 10.5.
To make playoffs, minus 300, Roman?
Minus 300.
That's pretty steep. Like they're expected to be there.
Yep, that's pretty high.
I think the 1 and 2 seed in this division gets you a playoff spot. So
minus 300, and if you're a believer in Lamar Jackson, he's plus 1,600 to win the MVP. That's pretty decent odds. That's around the back end of the top 10 if you're talking about just guys who have a chance to win it all. So if you like Lamar Jackson, you take him there. Their offseason was a little quiet. They added Sammy Watkins to that receiver group that I think we all agree is a little bit of a weakness. They added Alejandro Villanueva. They added a receiver in the draft. They drafted Rashad Bateman, the receiver out of Minnesota. A big guy, can go up and get it. It's not really a burner. They drafted a lot of defense, as they usually do. They do lose a lot on defense, though. They lost Matt Judon to the Patriots, a good edge rusher. They lost Yannick Ngakoue. I'm not going to pronounce that. Ngakoue, there you go. Thank you, Justin. Edge to the Raiders.
Thank God for Justin.
The Mark Ingram era is over. He moves on to the Texans, Ben's old favorite team.
That's old news, Roland.
And Matt Skira.
That's the last time me and the Texans will be using a sentence together, Roland.
So that was their 2021 offseason, kind of quiet. Maybe they didn't do enough for some of you guys who expected them to beef up that wide receiver core. But their 2021 season, to me, looks pretty good. They're number 2 on the strength of schedule. Again, I think that's because the AFC North is slotted with the AFC West and the NFC North, two divisions that are pretty good. But I have them looking pretty good this year. Before I get into my record, what do you guys think about the Ravens this year? Do you buy into that storyline of them taking that next leap? Are you buying or selling that?
Do we believe Lamar will become a passer? Do we believe he'll evolve into a better passer this year? I think is what it comes down to be honest. Because like you said, 17-3 Bills and Ravens in that playoff game pretty much just contained Lamar. The Ravens had to go for it on a couple 4th and longs, and they didn't get it because he couldn't really pass. So will he? Is Des Bryant still on the team? Because they were rolling out. They were rolling out Des Bryant in the playoffs, man.
Yeah, he can still do it if you follow him on Instagram. He's still working.
Hey, Roland still throws up the X every night before he goes to bed, baby. All right, but listen, Roland, I'm very optimistic on the Ravens, like you are, just based on their run game. Their run game has been the top run game in the NFL over the last couple of years since getting. We're not talking about the GOAT. We're talking about the llama, like Diego calls him, llama. Lamar Jackson, and you got J.K. Dobbins in the backfield. You got Gus Edwards. You got Mark Andrews at tight end. They have Hollywood Brown, who, shit the bed for a lot of people last year. He had pretty high expectations being the Ravens' number one drops. And they weren't always the best passes either, Roland, to be honest. But like you said, that strength of schedule, the back end of their schedule, they just have that Cincinnati game sprinkled in there. We have them splitting with Pittsburgh. Thank God that the final game is in Baltimore. It's not in Pittsburgh. So, but the Rams and Pittsburgh back to back to end the season, that could be tough. I like them to make the playoffs. I think that they're up there to win the division with another team that we're going to get into right after this. But I'm optimistic about the Ravens. Not so much the passing game. I think Lamar Jackson, based on his legs and his playmaking ability, I don't like the MVP, him to win MVP. He already did it, but I like the Ravens to get 12, 13 wins this year.
And Lamar Jackson did come down with COVID. Just a little side note. He
didn't know
test
that.
Positive for COVID today.
Well, when you're at the park, running go routes on kids in sandals,
he's for the people. He's for the people, man. He's for the people.
Ron, what do you got on the Ravens?
I don't see a lot of regression, but I don't see a lot of progression either. To me, they're just the same old Ravens. They're going to make the playoffs. I have them over 10.5, 11 for sure, maybe 12. I don't know, as high as 13 or 14 wins because they did hit that rough patch in the middle of the season last year. And just like you said, the way the Bills just locked down Lamar and that's pretty much the blueprint on how to beat them. J.K. Dobbins is still young. Like Roland mentioned, their wide receivers, they don't have that, that go-to guy or that, that group of receivers either. It's all dependent on Lamar. Right. But their defense is strong enough. They're very well coached. I've always been a Harbaugh fan, the Baltimore Harbaugh.
Better Harbaugh.
Yeah. I like him. I think he's a smart coach. He finds ways. Roland said they were 2-4 last year. In games less than 7 points, something like that. So those games could have gone either way, 3-3 or 4-2 the other way. I do have them over 10.5 wins, very high in the division as well. So I mean, they would have to lose six games for this not to cash.
No, they have to lose 7 for it.
I'm sorry, 7. Yeah, 7. I don't see them losing 7 games.
Nah.
Especially with teams like Detroit, Denver.
At the beginning, Ron,
yeah. Oh shit.
And they have that good 4-game streak of all home games that I like there in the beginning too.
Baltimore's a very tough place to play at. It's cold. Nobody really likes to go there, especially in the winter, but they're used to it. I mean, you got Vegas, Detroit, Denver, Indy, and Los Angeles in the first, and Cincinnati at the beginning. I mean, they're not going to run through them all. Obviously, I have them losing to Kansas City, but you could see a possible 5-1 or a very strong 4-2 start to the season before they hit their bye. And then even at the end, I mean, they go to Miami, they go to Chicago. Those are winnable games. I mean, they do have Green Bay late, but then they have Pittsburgh as their last game. So even if they're sitting at 10 wins going into the last week, I'm not high on Pittsburgh. So maybe they can get their 11th win and you hit your bet the very last week.
And the thing that I like about this schedule and the reason why I'm confident in betting the over is because they do have some toss-up games that I gave to them when I was breaking it down, but their big games for the most part are all at home. They get the Chiefs at home. They get Green Bay at home. They get the Chargers the Los Angeles Rams at home, and they get the Steelers at home to end the season, and they get the Colts at home too in the beginning of the season. So a lot of their tough games, they get them at home, and I think that's going to swing some of those toss-up games to them. I see them starting that out of the 7 games going into the bye week. Ben and I were talking about it earlier. I see them going 6-1 in that first 7 games. Best case scenario, worst case 5-2.
The away games are at Denver, at Detroit, at Vegas, like
at Miami, at Chicago,
and they're not going to drop all 3 of the Chiefs, Colts, and Chargers games. What you would argue is their toughest game in that. They're not dropping all 3. They're probably going to win 2 out of those 3 games, I'd say. Yeah. I like this total.
It comes down to how do you have them? Yeah, so do I. But how do you have them in the division? Like Roland, me and you said, we have them splitting with the Steelers. Do we have them splitting with the Browns?
I have them splitting with the Browns too.
Ron, I know you like the Browns a lot.
I like the Browns defense. I like the Browns defense a lot.
I don't have them splitting with the Steelers, I'll tell you that.
You got them beating the Steelers twice?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. If they can beat the Steelers twice.
Yeah. Sure. Splitting with the who'd you say Browns?
Browns?
I could see a very close game at Baltimore, so I would lean the split.
Baker ain't beating Lamar twice. Relax.
Come on,
I also don't think, to answer your question, Ben, at the beginning when you opened up your talk on the Ravens, I don't think Lamar Jackson necessarily has to develop into like a special passer. I don't think that's ever going to be in his cards. I think
to win the season, win total, but to win the Super Bowl, he has to.
Yeah.
He has to.
I mean, we've seen worse guys get to the Super Bowl as a quarterback. It's
not with J.K. Dobbins at running back.
Man, I mean, we saw Peyton Manning at the end of his career get into the Super Bowl.
Carson Wentz.
Yeah, we've seen some bad guys into the Super Bowl. I can see Lamar Jackson maybe making some strides. And then also, I want to say, they didn't have an offseason last year. Lamar Jackson didn't get to work on his game a lot in the offseason and get acquainted with his offensive coordinator because of COVID. So giving him a full offseason, I'm going to say Lamar Jackson does make some strides, but I'm not saying that he has to turn into a dimer to win a Super Bowl.
He doesn't have to turn into Mahomes.
Nah. What do you think, Justin? Where do you have the season total?
Justin,
let us know, Justin.
Justin.
Big boy.
How good does Lamar have to get passing, Justin? Does he have to be Dak level passing to get a title? I'm not even saying
he doesn't have to be that good. He doesn't have to be that good.
I'm saying Dak, like he's got to be better, bro.
So I agree with Ben. Lamar does have to get better at passing.
He just have to be better.
Super Bowl. Now, for this over/under total, what Lamar is right now, I think he gets him over. I got him at 11 wins. I also got the Ravens winning the division. I also agree with Ron saying they didn't regress, but they didn't progress that much.
Yeah, that's quite offseason. Yeah.
Ravens wide receivers got some burners out there. You got
Marquise,
and you got Devin Duvernay. Then you have what I perceive to be a solid back and what's his name, Dobbins. But I don't see them making noise in the playoffs unless Lamar improves in the offseason with his passing. So, and as we all know, he's running hot routes in a basketball court on the street and not really working on that passing. So I don't know.
Let me ask you, do you still have the Ravens as the third best team in the AFC? Do you go Chiefs, Bills, and then Ravens? Or do you have another order, Justin?
You know, I haven't really thought that out just because I'm not sure where I want to put the Chargers yet.
Okay. Okay. The Los Angeles Chargers with Justin Herbert.
Yeah. I mean, you saw what they did last season. I think they're going to improve.
Eating the hype, baby. Eating the hype.
All right.
So let me think that out. I can give you that assessment after we've done all the divisions at least.
But, you know, Lamar, for the most part, he's been a stud fantasy-wise.
I put the Colts over the Ravens.
Oh, you have Colts over the Ravens?
Oh, I mean, I'm sorry, the Titans. I put the Titans over the Ravens.
Okay, yeah, I put the Browns in front of both of those teams, man. I'm heavy on the Browns.
Before we get to the Browns, let's
all right. Fantasy. Before I take off my helmet and swing it at Kyle Rudolph.
Where can we put in this season total bet?
Mason, I know when I say Kyle, I was like, "That's wrong."
Hey, Ron, what's on your shirt, man? Where can we put this?
Where can we
this
get
over
this
under
over 10.5 for the Ravens at?
It's an official merch drop. It's a Nelk Boys. I know you don't like the Nelk Boys. July 29th, merch drop. We talking about sports. BetKing Online. Here it is, the first official collab tee. All right, and we've been talking about sports, and we got obviously we're big. We like to dabble in the little, wagering a little bit here and there. So go to We Talking About Sports. That's the code, right? But you got to BetKing Online, Twitter. Simple steps, guys. Go to BetKing Online on Twitter. I know everybody has a Twitter. I know everybody's out there with their Twitter fingers and all that.
Even if it's a burner.
Yeah, the burner. Go to BetKing Online. That's all you have to do. And there's a promo there. I can't give away too many details because it's such a good promo. All right. Just go to BetKing Online on Twitter. But you have to use WTBS. That's it right there. WTBS. That's the promo code. Go there. It's a cool place. We all follow them as well. So if you follow We Talking About Sports on Twitter, we're linked to them. So we communicate a lot. So there's just a lot of good information there, man. So go to We Talking About Sports on Twitter. Obviously, BetKing Online. There's a great promo going on, and you're gonna want to get started now. Don't wait till football season starts. Don't be like, well, football season's not started yet. Nah, just go now. That way you can kind of try it out.
These bets. You can still put in these season total bets right now.
Yes.
If y'all have any questions, hit any one of us, and we'll get you set up and ready to go.
Yeah, man, because these bets, if somebody gets hurt or somebody gets, whatever the case is, you're going to want to put in those bets now. Or if you just want to get used to the site, figure out how to do parlays, figure out how to do this, figure out how to do that, how to deposit, how to cash out like everybody does. Get used to the site. We're very close to the football season. So get started, man. Check them out. BetKing Online. Promo code We Talking About Sports. And like Justin and Roland and Ben said, we're here, bro. If y'all have any questions, just hit us up.
So we're going to make that official. I know last podcast when we were talking about the NFC West, we made the Rams over official. Their number was what? Was it 10.5 or was it 11? 10.5 as well. So 10.5 seems to be the sweet number this year. Before it would be 10 with the 16 games. Now with the 17, they added the hook. But I mean, like Ron and Justin said, they didn't get better. They didn't get worse. But they're consistent. They run the ball. It's going to be time of possession with them, leading me into fantasy talk. The Ravens had the least amount of possessions last year, and they had the slowest pace last year. So how do you all feel about the Ravens fantasy-wise? Anybody that you all are looking to get? I mean, obviously Lamar is the highlight of that, but you're going to have to draft it. I know last year I took him in the second round, and he shit the bed for the most part of the year. If you traded for him midseason, if you traded for him midseason and had him in the playoffs, but if you drafted him, you weren't winning with him at quarterback.
Yeah, QB number 4 overall.
How do y'all feel about Lamar?
I'd take him. I'd still draft him. He's QB number 4 right now.
Where though?
Number 38. So number 38, probably back end of the third round, top of the fourth is what it's slotted at.
Yep.
So
third quarterback off the board.
Yeah, I'd take him in the 4th. If it's him or Kyler Murray, I'd probably make that decision there, depending what my team's looking like. But other than that, I'm not really looking at the Ravens. Maybe Mark Andrews, but I don't know if he can keep up the pace that he's on. But he seems to be Lamar's favorite target and the most reliable guy. So those are probably 2 guys I'm targeting. And J.K. Dobbins. I like J.K. Dobbins. I think he's going to have his first full year as the guy. So I like him.
Back this time. Well, he probably might split with Gus Edwards.
But he got COVID too. So
oh, shit. He was running routes with Lamar.
That's the Dr. Saucy in him, cuz.
Gotta throw it out there every now and again.
Ron, anybody you want to touch here? Are you touching Dobbins? Are you touching Lamar?
I don't think I'm touching them because you kind of just have to rely on Lamar's scrambling ability. He's not that passer. I mean, yes, he has his games, but yes, you want your quarterback like a Russell Wilson, like a Murray, who's going to scramble, who's going to get rushing touchdowns for you. But if you're dependent on that, then I would just pass. I'm not going to waste a 3rd or 4th round pick where he's projected on going on him. I learned last year when I took Watson super early, and he was like trash for me too, man. So I learned my lesson. Me as a personal pick or play or whatever you want to call it, I'm not taking a quarterback earlier than maybe the 5th round this year. And if Jackson's gone, he's gone.
All right. Justin, J.K. Dobbins or Najee Harris?
Damn. Najee.
Najee?
Yeah.
Just based on the fact that he's not splitting, are you looking to get Dobbins RB2?
PPR.
Yeah, I think I had him even last season, but I'll try to get Najee over Dobbins first.
Last year, a lot of people drafted Dobbins and had to play the waiting game and just got impatient because he never got his shot until about week 9, week 10. Ended up dropping him, so you were able to pick him off the waiver wire. But he did show the flashes, and I mean, he was a baller at Ohio State. The guy can get it done. It's just the fact that he's got to compete with Lamar. He's got to compete with Gus Edwards. And then, Mark Andrews is a goal line and red zone monster.
Yes.
So it gets tricky. I do like Dobbins. I prefer Najee Harris over Dobbins, but I wouldn't mind J.K. Dobbins in the fifth round as RB2.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does Lamar take a lot of those carries away though from the running backs, being a mobile quarterback?
Of course, I think he does. I mean, he's going to
Because
have over.
So I mean, I don't know.
Rushes
So I mean, Dobbins. I mean, you're already saying he's going to split with Edwards. Lamar's going to maybe take some of his, goal line carries away too. A little read option kind of stuff. So if Dobbins falls to me later than the 5th or 6th, which he probably won't, I'm not really messing with any Ravens.
Yeah, Lamar.
Running backs.
To answer your question, Lamar led the team in rush attempts last year. He had
109
rush
But
attempts.
Dobbins didn't get to play until later.
Yeah. I'm just saying it. Lamar's going to take rushes from the running backs because he is built-in runs a lot of the time too because he's dangerous at running the ball.
Who will be the Ravens' leading rusher this year?
Lamar Jackson.
I think it'll be J.K. Dobbins.
Side bet.
I think it'll be J.K.
I like
Dobbins.
Lamar Jackson.
Little side bet, Roland. We'll figure it out.
Hey, actually, it was close though, Ben. It was close. I'm not going to back out now because I had a strong conviction with Lamar Jackson.
You better not back out.
No, I had strong conviction. I can't back out. I'm not going to. This is a recorded
you
podcast.
Will lose, Roland. This is a recorded podcast,
but
this is my revenge.
It was pretty close. Yeah.
This is my revenge for Justin Rose against the field.
You got paid up for Justin Rose.
No, I know.
You did it on your own.
I'll pay up tonight. Once we get to the Bengals, I'm going to be throwing them back, Papa. Don't worry.
All right. I like that. I like a little side bet whenever we can get one going.
So we'll put that on the board. Me and Roland, leading rusher for the Ravens. I got Dobbins. He's got Lamar. We'll figure it out later. But nobody's touching the wide receiver.
Am I the only one drafting Lamar if he's there?
I'm out on Lamar.
Sounds like it.
Shit, if he's
all right,
3rd or 4th round pick, you are. But before we finish with the Ravens, don't forget the little arrows there and the little We Talking About Sports logo is there. So for this episode, it's the We Talking About Sports consensus play over 10.5 Ravens, and you can put in that play at BetKing Online. Promo code We Talking About Sports, man.
Boom. We're not touching any of the receivers.
Ron is our official ad man now. You guys can't tell. He doesn't work for anybody else. He's on the podcast, so you guys
full send.
One last question, guys. One last fantasy question about Mark Andrews. Are you taking Mark Andrews or Kamara for the Falcons that just got drafted?
Kyle Pitts
or Mark Andrews? Who are you taking?
Give me some Mark Andrews because I still think he's the favorite target of Lamar.
I know where Ron's going.
Kyle Pitts.
Yeah. Justin.
Yeah, Mark Andrews just because it's proven.
I'm going to go with Mark Andrews too. So we'll end it on the Ravens on that. Ron, you're into that rookie hype. You're a hype beast.
No, not. Dude, have you seen Pitts? Have you seen Pitts play? The guy's a freak, bro.
Saw him in college. I saw him in college.
He's a Darren Waller. Is that the guy from the? Yeah. There you go.
For the Raiders.
Yeah, for the Raiders. You see.
All right.
Expect those type of numbers from Pitts.
All right.
Well, shit, man. We're gonna get into the rivals right now. All right. Well, we're moving on to 3rd place. We just got done with the Ravens, who we're all pretty high on here on the podcast. Ended up making that our official NFC or AFC North bet. Took their over 10.5. But moving on to the Browns, they finished 3rd place. Surprised a lot of people. They've looked good on paper, I'd say, for the last 2-3 years. But I think this is the year that they finally kind of put it together. Win 11-5, 6-2 at home at the Dog Pound, 5-3 on the road. 4-2 against the division, fared pretty well against their rivals. Ended up bowing out in the divisional round against the Chiefs. Little stat here: they haven't won the AFC North since 1989. Could this be the year that it changes? 9 games decided by a touchdown or less.
Like 1-year-old.
7-2 in those games. So they've won the close games. Big storyline for them this year probably is Baker that guy coming into a contract year. You know, when he's going to get that big extension, is he going to be one of those guys that resets the market for the quarterbacks? That's what they're talking about. Will the defense live up to the hype? We're going to get into their additions, but they've had some big name additions in this offseason. It's kind of affecting where Vegas sees them. I know we just talked about the Ravens having plus 900 odds to win the championship, the AFC championship rather. The Browns coming at plus 700 to win the Super Bowl. They're also shorter odds than the Ravens at plus 1,400. Their odds to win the AFC North plus 140, so they're right there with the Ravens. They're a little bit shorter. I don't know how that makes sense, but they are second place in the division right now in terms of those odds. They're over under at 10.5, juice to minus 130. And if you're a Baker guy, grab his MVP odds plus 2,200.
Don't grab that.
House call.
Hey, Ron might have a little individual bet here once we get to talking, but they did do some work in the offseason. Jadeveon Clowney, their big addition, edge rusher, moves over from the Titans. Is that correct? They signed to Karis McKinley, Malik Jackson, beefing up that defensive line. They got Troy Hill, a good addition at cornerback. They signed John Johnson, a great safety. I believe he comes over from the Rams, if I'm not mistaken. Anthony Walker, linebacker. And they went heavy on defense in the draft, highlighted by drafting another corner, Greg Newsome, that corner out of Northwestern. Pretty good pick. Their departures, not too crazy. Sheldon Richardson leaves to the Vikings. Olivier Vernon, a big edge rusher for them. He's an undrafted or an unrestricted free agent right now. He leaves. Kevin Johnson, the corner, leaves, and they also lose Adrian Claiborne, an edge rusher. And Larry Ojenubi, another edge rusher, goes over to the Bengals. Their strength of schedule is top 10. They're at number 9. What do you guys like about the Browns this year? Do you think this is another year that the Browns, prove everybody wrong and show that they're here to stay? Do we see OBJ possibly ruin some growth of Baker Mayfield? Or do we have the Browns winning the AFC North? Ron, I think you're pretty high on the Browns. I think you like them the most here. Why don't you lead us off?
Dollar bills, y'all. This is the team right here. I think out of the whole division, they get the most wins. To be completely honest, I have them easily at 12. Nothing less than 12. They continue the momentum from last year. Baker stepping it up. They as far as the offseason, they got rid of the trash and they got all these newer, studs. In my opinion, their strength of schedule, their strength of schedule is still number 9. But I mean, to me, they have a lot of walks this year, man. I mean, they got Houston, they got Chicago early. I have them beating Cincinnati both times. I have them beating Pittsburgh both times. So that's already 4 wins just in the division alone, which leads to the prop of them winning the division. So I think that's a play. They played Pittsburgh late, Cincinnati late, Detroit, New England. So I easily see them hitting the over-under, and it's the same over-under as Baltimore. So, of course, I'm going to take the over 10.5. Baker does well. I'm going to sprinkle on him to win the MVP.
Terrible.
Okay, so I'm glad you said that,
Ron. At plus 2,200. I mean, why not take the shot?
I'm glad you said that, Ron. Similar to the
when you say
Lamar
sprinkle,
Jackson.
how much is a sprinkle?
Like $20.
Okay,
that's fine.
I'm sure we spent $20 worse ways,
No, this is the worst way to spend.
Nah,
This isn't a rated R show, Justin.
Much like the Lamar Jackson question of whether or not he needs to take the next step. Do you think Baker needs to take another step, or do you think more of what he did last year, managing the game, letting the running backs take over, a lot of play action? Do you think that's the path to victory, or do you think he needs to further develop to win a Super Bowl?
He needs to further develop a little bit, yes, but sometimes less is more, Roland, and I think that's a situation because he wanted being the big guy out of OU, you know, putting the flag in the middle of the field, being like little Johnny Manziel-esque. You know, I think last year he finally said, you know what, I'm gonna be more professional this year. I'm gonna. I want everybody to win, just like you said. The running backs did well, and I think as a team they finally meshed well together. They went very late in the season, so I think that just continues to roll. I mean, if Myles Garrett doesn't have that melee with Rudolph, and he doesn't get out suspended or whatever it was, I think they do even better, and they carry that momentum into the AFC Championship, possibly, not the Super Bowl because, the Chiefs are just
dang, you might have to get a Browns jersey this year. I might see you walking around with a Baker jersey. Over under the fifth game of the season, Iran comes in with a Baker jersey. I have it at the under. They start off pretty good here, 4-0. If they beat Kansas City, he's getting a Baker jersey.
I don't know why I'm the one.
I'm getting it tatted.
I don't know why I'm the one barking. This one should be barking.
Dude, I'm just super high on the Browns this year.
I've been barking, but the barking ends at Baker Mayfield to win MVP. Fam, like, just go get yourself, a Chick-fil-A, bro. No mames.
What does that pay out? But what does that pay out?
Plus 2,200. You put 100, you get 2,000.
No, but $20 gives you like 4 bills.
Yeah, 4 bills. Yeah. Good
close to 5. Why not? Fuck it.
Because it's not going to happen, fam. Like, I agree they have the best offense in the division, and he can just game manage based off the backfield that they have, the receiving core that they have. You just can't. It's kind of like Jimmy Garoppolo's situation.
But I think he's better than Jimmy.
No, man. But Roland, the thing that I'm saying is make those 2 to 5 throws in the game.
I agree.
Make those 2 to 5 throws, and you're going to win with your defense, with your run game. And, bro, you have Jarvis Landry, you have OBJ.
Does OBJ coming back concern you, or do you think that's a plus?
Yes, OBJ has been off my fantasy football draft list.
It's a concern.
Well, not for fantasy. Not for fantasy. Not for fantasy, but for Baker, because there's that talk about as soon as OBJ went down, I'm sad that it went to injury or because of injury, but as soon as he went down, Baker started playing better.
Browns got better.
The whole team was better.
Maybe Baker felt a little more alpha-ish without OBJ on the field, because if OBJ was on the field, he probably would be the alpha. But, I mean, he's the best receiver in that group, so they're only going to be better with him. It's just, I think it comes down to if OBJ buys in. I think he's at that point in his career, and the average draft position says it as well. OBJ is going, 6th, 7th round. OBJ was first, second round guy, numerous years in a row. So he kind of like Carmelo Anthony-ish almost, Roland, just not quite there, but he kind of just has
Carmelo has the numbers. The OBJ numbers have lacked.
But he's got to settle into that role and accept it. You know what I mean? You're not box office anymore, Odell. You're not box office.
It's true. He's not. And I don't think that's the route to victory for the Browns. They don't need him to be box office. I think they need him to get those big chunk plays. He's still capable of taking a slant. It's like 70 yards. You saw him. I saw him rip up the Cowboys this past year. It was sad. I had to watch that. But Justin, do you like the Browns to win the division this year?
I know you want the Ravens winning the division. Okay, I have them one game under the Ravens with 10 wins, 10-7. They split with the Ravens being at 10-7. They do make that wild card game. I do like the additions of Jadeveon Clowney and Takkarist McKinley on the edge, because now you have a serious edge rush on the other side of Myles Garrett, something to really work with.
Good point.
Although I think on offense, as we have been talking with Odell, I think that's somewhat of a holding him back. I think there's some value still with him, not a lot, but some, where you can get a trade and get some additions. I think they should look at something like that, because I think, as we saw last season, until he went down is when they really flourished. Unfortunately,
he's got to show something coming off injury to get any type of trade value.
But there's value on him, Ben. You can't say there's no value on him.
Not coming off this injury. No, there's not.
There's value.
Yes, there is.
I mean,
there's some value on OBJ.
With the drama and the injury, With the drama and the injury,
you're probably going to only
You're saying no
yield
team's
like
going to
a
offer
third,
something for Odell?
maybe a third or fourth round.
They'll offer you a fifth or sixth.
Yeah,
Nah,
I
you're
mean,
gonna get
maybe
more
I'm
than
being
a
nice.
first.
I'd say third or fourth. But Justin, speaking of contracts and trading people, would you break the bank for Baker this upcoming year?
I mean, here's the thing. You're the Browns. You've gone through how many quarterbacks in the last, 10 years?
10?
You finally have something. Yeah, might be 10. You finally have something that looks decent enough, and you made the playoffs first time since what? I don't know, 89 you said or something like that?
They haven't won the division since 89, and you don't think they're going to win it again. It's going to go longer.
Baker keeps you in contention at least to make that playoffs. You pay the man what he wants, I think.
Right, to keep it going, right? I agree with that.
Unless Aaron Rodgers is knocking on the door next year and saying, I'm ready to come over.
I don't know about breaking the bank, but I do think that you need to extend him and keep him along, just for the simple fact that you have that jersey.
Yeah. Ron, I don't know about paying him what he wants. You do have to pay him, but he's not gonna reset the market like every quarterback usually does. No. But that's what quarterbacks usually do.
That's what they do. That's what they do.
That's what
I mean. You're not gonna see, obviously you're not gonna see Mahomes money. You're not gonna see Dak money, but you're still gonna pay the guy a good chunk of change because just like Justin alluded to is if everybody's like, who's the guy who's going to get us over the hump? Who's going to get us over the hill? Who's going to take us there? And Baker did that for you. Whether he regressed last year as, this gunslinger mentality, he did his job. He did what he was supposed to do. He threw less picks. He managed the game well. And isn't that what you want? Your running back stepped up huge. Everybody's sleeping on, how Chubb just, tore it the hell up. And they had that double-headed, running back monster also. So going back to the bets, to win the AFC North at plus money when Justin has them, maybe a game away, I think, and obviously we don't see the Bengals winning it. We don't see the Steelers winning it. The bet here is to win the AFC North at plus 140, man. That's the bet to me right there.
Yes, sir.
I think the division is a toss-up. I'm going to Ron. Sometimes,
talk to me.
Ron, sometimes the juice.
Talk to me.
Sometimes the juice, Ron. Sometimes the juice is what?
It's worth the squeeze, baby.
I think if you just go Browns to make the playoffs, minus 240 isn't that steep, bro. I really don't think it's that.
They're going to make the playoffs. They're going to make the playoffs.
They're going to make the playoffs.
I have them at 11-6. I have them at second place in the division because I still do favor the Ravens, just like Justin. But I do have the Ravens going 12-5, and I have the Browns going 11-6. But I do see what Ron is saying here, especially if you believe in the Browns having the better offense. They have the more balanced attack. I think they're more likely to have success in the passing game than the Ravens. I think that's really the only thing that gives me some trouble. And then I think it's going to come down to weeks 12 and 14, those back-to-back games against the Ravens. There, you go to Baltimore and then you get the bye week and you play the Ravens in the back end of that. So it's going to be a tough fight for the division. If you're a believer in the Browns, I do think the best bet for them is to take the AFC North to plus 140 if you're a believer. Yeah, but I'm not going to take that.
And I think the Browns also added that wide receiver, Anthony Schwartz, and I think he's going to fit well in the slot. That dude is a speedy.
Justin, who the fuck
is he a sleeper?
Who the fuck is that?
He's got one of the fastest 40s out of the draft.
Is that the guy that Aaron Rodgers was mad that the Packers cut last year?
No, he got drafted. He got drafted this year.
Would you call him a sleeper, Justin? Fantasy sleeper? Or is he too far out of that range?
I won't label that because I'm not sure how they're going to use him, but that's how I would use him because I think he's like 5'9".
Hey, but this team's going to have some good fantasy options, though. This team's going to have some good fantasy options.
Justin, like my cousin Gene says, bro, they don't even know that guy's name in his own house, bro.
Look, talking about that's actually really funny.
What's funny is he's going to be pretty good.
Look, you want to talk about a team going 11-0 like the Steelers did, staying in the division. I can see the Browns, if they beat Kansas City, a strong heavy if they go to Kansas City and win week 1, you have Houston, Chicago, Minnesota, Chargers, Cardinals, Denver, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati. Then after Pittsburgh and Cincinnati, you have New England, and then Detroit. I mean, that's a strong 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I mean, you could see a 10-1, 11. I mean, you could potentially hit this bet by the bye week.
And I like their bye week position.
Ron.
Hey, I'm just speaking.
It would have to be 11-1 at the bye week. Relax, Ron.
Best wide receiving. Okay, even 11-1. I mean, that's still gets you there.
That's out of the question.
Okay, look.
That's out of the question. They're not going 11-1.
Best. Okay, guys. Okay, this is a question, everybody. Best receiving core in the division. Who do you give it to?
Bengals.
The Browns. The Bengals. The Bengals. Yeah, the Bengals.
I still give it to the Browns. Running backs, I still give it to the Browns.
Running backs,
for sure. Running backs, Browns.
Defense, yes. You see, I mean, in all assets. I mean, in all assets of the game,
they're the most well-rounded team.
There you go. I'm telling you where to put the money. Y'all don't want to listen.
But just Lamar or Baker. But Lamar Baker, bro, is just the game changer in Lamar's dual threat ability. You got to take the Ravens and the coach. Are we going to take Harbaugh, or is it still Freddie Kitchens?
No,
who's in there now? Oh, Stefanski. I mean,
yeah, he took him to the promised land.
He took him to the promised land. Yeah, pretty
much.
Ron,
listen, Ron. I'm barking, Ron, but the barking stops in the playoffs.
Okay, are you gonna be barking for them in fantasy though, Ben?
Let's talk fantasy football. Listen, last year I was a big believer in Kareem Hunt over Nick Chubb based on ADP. Do I believe that coming into this year? I think if I was to ask y'all who's the best running back in this division, who would finish with the best stats running back wise, would we all say Nick Chubb?
Nick Chubb.
If he's healthy, Nick Chubb.
I think so.
Nick Chubb. And he's going to be splitting with Kareem.
They're dedicated to the run game.
He's supposed to get paid, too.
So Nick Chubb is going about second round. Either early, late second round. He's not seeing third round.
He's ADP 7 as the running back.
That's higher than I thought.
Nick Chubb?
He's the 7th running back off the board. But
RB6, yeah.
Yeah, like Devontae Adams might be going off the board before he does, and maybe even Kelsey. But what do y'all feel about Nick Chubb? Does Nick Chubb have potential to finish in the top 5 in the running backs fantasy wise, or is Kareem Hunt gonna just bite into too many of his carries?
I don't think it's the Kareem Hunt taking carries from him, because I think he's proven with the output that he's given us these past, or at least last year, that he's capable of being the workhorse. But I just think that he's going to lose out in the passing game. And I play in PPR leagues, and I don't see Nick Chubb passing or catching too many passes. That's the only thing that worries me. I think he's still going to be the running back 1 for the Browns. I think he's going to finish as a running back 1, meaning
top 10, top
10, top 12. Yeah, depending on your league, he's going to finish as a running back 1. And if you're a believer in taking a running back, I would take him in the first round. I mean, he's ADP 7, running back 6. I'm just saying, depending where you're at, I would, just depending on your draft philosophy. I mean, if you still need a running back, because look, the fact of the matter is running backs are not a dime a dozen. You're not going to be able to find a bunch of running backs in the later round. So you got to grab your guy. So if you're a believer in that, I wouldn't feel bad about taking Nick Chubb in the first round.
The problem for me with drafting Nick Chubb and why I don't want him is how good the defenses are in that division. I don't want to be going up the Steelers. I don't want to be going up the Ravens. That's 4 games already guaranteed. Yeah, maybe the Bengals aren't as good, but then I also got to deal with Kareem Hunt getting his. I'm out on the backfield. Maybe I'll take Kareem Hunt to be a flex option. I'm not even saying Kareem Hunt might be RB2, but I'm saying I'm okay with flexing Kareem Hunt. I'm out on drafting Nick Chubb.
Okay. Like total? Like at all? Or
I just don't want him. I mean, I just rather have another guy who is, the guy. Like, I honestly rather wait and draft Gibson from Washington over taking Nick Chubb, where I would have to take him in the draft. You know what I mean? Because Gibson's going to be getting the carries, for that team. So
Gibson's going to be the guy.
Yeah, I would rather take Kareem Hunt later on in the draft to be my flex than take Nick Chubb to be my RB1. I don't want Nick Chubb as my RB1.
Nick Chubb is very goal line. I mean, he's the guy they're going to go to, though, when they're in the red zone. So
He is, but they just have too many options, man. Odell, Landry, they always keep a tight end or 2 on deck, the Browns, and then you got Kareem Hunt and you got Nick Chubb. there's just too much to go around. I don't want Nick Chubb. Like, I'd rather draft Devontae Adams before I drafted Nick Chubb if I was drafting. You know what I mean? Like, and usually you go running back before you go receiver. But I feel like Devontae Adams is the first receiver that should be off the board. I take him before I took Nick Chubb at my RB1.
Oh, for sure.
So if I was 8, 9, or 10 in the draft, instead of taking Nick Chubb as, you know, the running backs that all obviously go off the board the first 5 or 6 top dogs, I would take Devontae Adams before I took Nick Chubb, to be honest. And it's unconventional to go to receiver, you know, before you go running back for most people.
Very true. Damn, just dropping. You're the fantasy guru.
Wow, it's just it's not necessarily guru. It's just my preference. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, that's a very good. But
I mean, it makes
the backfield being shared that much. I'd rather take Kareem Hunt in the 6th or 7th.
It's all based on your draft philosophy and what you think. And Ben values, especially in PPR leagues, taking Devontae at the back end. And I see the path for that, Ben. I definitely do. When you think about Devontae being the only target for Aaron Rodgers, really, that you can count on from week to week. Yeah, I like that. Let's get
into the. Go ahead. Ron.
Well, just real quick, but like there, when you said you'd rather take Kareem Hunt at 6 or 7, you're gonna take a guy who's already behind, you know, somebody like Chubb, who's only gonna probably be in their third down situations, maybe a couple series here and there. Are you gonna waste a 6th or 7th round pick on a guy like Hunt though?
On a flex option?
Yeah, because he has a solidified role etched out for him. It's
okay.
not
like Nick Hunt gets his because let's not
Kareem Hunt gets
beat around the bush.
Kareem
Hunt, I'm sorry.
He has his own role. He
gets in the end zone. And he's going to be that pass catching back for those half point or even full point PPR leagues. So speaking about PPR, let's get into the wide receiver. Odell, you got Landry. And Higgins, if we want to get deep into the depth chart, but are you all looking at Landry or are you all looking at Odell? Me personally, I'm not going to waste too much time on this. I've been off Odell 3 years ago. I'm not about to jump back on. I'm not drafting any Cleveland Browns for wide receivers.
I don't like either of them, but you know we're a podcast here, and we have to give our opinion on if we would take one or the other for their ADP. I'd probably go. On their ADP, I'd probably go Odell just because I think this is the cheapest that you're ever going to get.
What's the ADP?
Or the lowest that you're ever going to get him. It's ADP. Odell's at 73. Jarvis Landry's at 94. That slots in at wide receiver 29 and wide receiver 38. So, I mean, this is the lowest that you're ever going to get Odell.
Odell or Tyler Lockett?
Tyler Lockett all day. But I like Tyler Lockett. I like Tyler Lockett. He's good, and he's been a proven target for Russell Wilson. And I think they're going to I take Russell Wilson over Baker Mayfield. But I'm saying between these guys, if you're going to choose a dude, you need a receiver. I mean, it's a buy low opportunity is all I'm going to say. I'd like to talk about buy low, sell high. This is the lowest you're ever going to get Odell Beckham unless he tears his ACL again. Knock on wood that he doesn't do that. But this is the lowest you're going to get him. So I would take a flyer if you had to choose a guy. But I would stay away, like Ben said, ultimately from these guys. I don't want anybody to think I'm on the Browns receiver bandwagon.
Before I turn it over to Justin here, I'm going to retract my previous statement and say I would take Odell over Lockett.
Oh, okay.
Just because I just thought, DK. I just thought of DK, and I don't know. I see a lot of love for him this year, from Russ. So, and the second point is I love Landry, bro. I'm a Jarvis Landry fantasy guy. He's my guy in fantasy football for wide receiver, wide receiver twos. He's the guy, man. He's tough. He'll take slants over the middle. He gets into the end zone. Not a lot, but he's a good security blanket to have. He has good hands. You don't get a lot of drops, from Landry, in my opinion. And you have, everybody paying attention to the run game. They might stack the box. You have, the safety going with Odell. So that leaves all those routes underneath to go to Landry and, possibly good yak. And I'm huge Landry, man. I'm a huge Landry guy. So.
Landry, wide receiver 2 or flex, Ron?
I'd say wide receiver 2 because I like running backs as my flexes.
Okay. I see what you're saying there. Because you're going to probably go – I'd say a flex because I wouldn't want him as my wide receiver 2 personally. But I see what Ron's saying. If you go heavy running back, you would look at Jarvis Landry.
Which I do.
Justin, I'm curious. We've been talking quarterbacks a lot. I know we were just talking receivers. Do you usually punt on quarterbacks? Do you like to punt on quarterbacks? Because where I'm going with this is Baker Mayfield's at quarterback 17.
Is he even draftable? Justin?
Would you draft him, or is he a punt candidate? Have you punted the position, meaning you don't draft it at all in your first major picks? Are you looking at Baker in the back end of the draft as your starter?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't pick him up in the top 3 at all. As far as the Jarvis and OBJ goes for picking that for fantasy, give me Jarvis.
Yes,
OBJ,
smart man.
So Baker's not getting drafted, Justin.
Not on my team. No.
I'm fucking drafting him.
Oh well, we know, Ron. You drafted Johnny Manziel once. We know, Ron. All right, so I think that pretty much wraps it up for the dog pound. I just want to bark one last time.
Let's hear it, baby.
Hey, what kind of dog do I sound like? It ain't no fucking Chihuahua, I'll tell you.
Bro.
And y'all can pay me when Cleveland runs away with this division, man.
Nah, Ron, Cleveland will make the playoffs, bro, and I really don't think that's that steep.
Let's go Ravens.
Yeah, let's go Ravens.
But we talk about everybody here. We don't exclude, right? We just talked about the teams that finished in the top 3. There's 4 teams to a division. That means we got to talk about the Cincinnati Bengals. We got to talk about these guys. They finished last in the division last year. They had some high hopes, I would say. They drafted Joe Burrow. They got their guy. He looked good. I mean, he had them in some pretty close games. And then his leg kind of blew up. So he's on the mend. They finished their season 4-11-1. They had a tie. They went 3-5 at home, 1-6 on the road. I think their 4 victories were actually all in the division. I have them down as 4-2 in the division. I need to double check that, but they were 4th place in the division.
Wild, Roland.
They missed the playoffs. They haven't made the playoffs since 2015 when the Red Rocket was under center.
TCU's finest.
Screw him.
Good little stat here. If you're a believer in regression, there's also something called these guys just ending up on the better side of things if it didn't work out for them. Is they went 1-5-1 in games that were decided by 7 points or less. So if you remove that tie, they had 6 games that were decided by a touchdown, and they went 1-5. So sometimes those games actually end up turning the other way the next year. And a lot of that is because, Joe Burrow had them in some close games down in the beginning of the year that they ultimately didn't win. That, to me, is their main storyline. Where does Burrow come back? Are they able to take a little bit of a leap? Zach Taylor, their head coach, has been there a little while. Haven't really been able to make any moves. Their odds in Vegas aren't too favorable. I'm not going to spend too much time there because I don't think anybody's going to spend time betting them other than maybe their season total over under 6.5 minus 135 juice to the over actually. So there's some guys that might think they get to seven wins. I can maybe see a path for that to make the playoffs though. They're plus 350. If you like Joe Burrow, he's plus 4,500 to win the MVP. That's about the same as it is for them to win the AFC Championship. So that's what it's going to take for them to win the MVP. And then Jamar Chase, their high-profile draft pick in the first round, a wide receiver teaming up with his old buddy out of LSU. He's plus 750 to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. So we got some pretty good rookies in this division between Jamar Chase and Najee Harris. They did make some moves in the offseason. They stole Chidobe Awuzie from the Cowboys as a cornerback.
Y'all can have his ass.
They got Larry Ojeanobi. They took him from the Browns, edge rusher. And then some departures. End of an era. AJ Green goes over to Arizona. Geno Atkins.
He was there for a minute too.
He's no longer with them. He's currently a free agent. William Jackson, cornerback. Carl Lawson, he also left to the Jets. No more Gio Bernard, another guy who was there for a while. Another guy that gave people fantasy problems for years and years.
Faithful.
opens up the stage for Joe Mixon maybe when we get into the fantasy talk. And then another guy that left, John Ross, another first-round pick of theirs. See if Jamar Chase has better luck.
Ron, hey, you couldn't be me in a race. You ain't touching him.
Man, shut up, fool. Hey, speaking of,
oh my God.
Hey, speaking of Gio Bernard, what team were we talking about in last week's segment that needed a running back? We're like, who do they go out and get? They get like some veteran. We're talking about
Adrian Peterson possibly signing someone.
Yeah.
I think was it
the Rams because
because they lost
the Rams. Yeah, I mean, I could see. I mean, that's Gio Bernard's not a bad guy if you're the Rams.
He's with the Bucks. He's with the Bucks.
Oh, he's already with the Bucks. Oh,
he's gonna be getting dump balls from Brady because don't you worry about it. Third and 2. Here's a 3-yard dump off.
So their schedule not too kind to them. Number 6 in terms of strengths of schedule.
God, and they're trash.
I have them right on that number, and I think I'm being a little kind here. I have them, winning some division games, but I have them at 6-11. That's to the under. Justin, where do you have these guys? I see your total here, but it's pretty low.
Yeah, look, I got them at 4-13. Here's the deal. I like their additions of Jamar Chase, but this is where they messed up. We know what they need. O-line. Did they go out and get an O-line?
They should have got a Sewell, Justin.
Did they go out and get an O-line?
They did.
So how can I expect them to be any better? Give me them at 4-13. I'll take the unders. This is the weakness of the division. This is the new Browns for a few years until they beef up that O-line.
Bungles.
The Bungles.
Justin, you know what the fucked up about 4-13 is? That you go 4-13, you have the first or second pick in the draft. Are you gonna go O-line with the first or second pick in the draft?
Like, you have to.
You have your answer at quarterback. That's the receiver in Jamar Chase. If you don't do it, you're gonna be the Browns for a lot longer.
Shit, if I'm the Bengals and I have the record that Justin just said, I'm trading back in the draft, loading up a bid, taking a lineman around 7-10, because at 1 or 2, I'm not taking an offensive lineman. I agree with you though, Justin. I don't expect much from them. I don't expect them to win many games in that division. I mean, is Geno Atkins even on that defense?
No, he left.
If he's not, I can't name you a fucking player. That was my next point.
I don't know who's on their defense. Pac-Man Jones, is he still there?
Joseph Ossai, because he's a Texas Longhorn. That's the reason why I know he's on there.
I think
he is. Shout out Pac-Man. He is doing
Joseph Ossai, the DE from Texas Longhorns. He's over there now. Just got drafted.
The Bengals should be in a lot of overs. Hint. This coming season, I think. I expect Joe Burrow. Listen, me and Roland agreed. That's the best wide receiver core in the NFL. You got Higgins, who they just drafted last year from Clemson. You got dude that they just drafted this year with the 6th pick or 5th pick, Chase, and you have Boyd as well. So they're pretty stacked at wide receiver. They have Joe Mixon in the backfield. They have Joe Burrow. Can they keep him standing up? You would think Joe Burrow's going to be in the bottom 5 O-lines and most sacked quarterbacks in the NFL. We saw his ACL get demolished last year with that weak-ass O-line. I expect them to be down and passing a lot, therefore holding some value in their wide receiver core, as we saw them being the best. But Joe Mixon, I'm out. Based on last year, I had him as well. I'm out on Joe Mixon. I expect them to be losing. The O-line's not that good. Like I spoke about Najee Harris. If he's getting met in the backfield, Mixon's going to get met in the backfield as well. I don't want Mixon. I'm interested in Boyd. I'm interested in Chase. I'm interested in Higgins.
Yeah.
Ron, are you drafting Joe Burrow? He's like borderline 10-12 quarterback.
Oh, yeah. If he's there,
starter? Is he a fantasy football starter, Joe Burrow?
If he's there at 10 or 11, yes, I will. For all the reasons that you just pointed out. They're gonna be down. He's gonna throw the rock, whether it's dump offs to the running back or whether it's to that star-studded wide receiving core that you just said. But this team, this offense, I should say, reminds me of my boys right there.
Oh, okay. I can see it.
Of my Tony Romo, but my Tony Romo boys.
I was gonna say a lot of teams that we've talked about today remind you of the Cowboys, because you're taking it back eras. You're going eras back. Okay.
Yes. So Tony Romo and the Cowboys, we all know they had the X, they had everybody under the sun, man. T.O., Zeke was eating. They were scoring 30, 35 points a game, but they could not stop the damn Mission Veterans, Mission Eagle offense if they wanted.
Steven Samora was leading them, baby. Hey.
I mean, you're talking about a terrible defense when the Cowboys were scoring all those points, which wasn't leading to wins and which led to preseason, but it led to the Romo injury, just like, Burrow. So I'm not high on the Bengals to just go back to the over-under. Max ceiling is 6 wins to me. So I'm taking the under here, under 6.5 wins.
Watching a lot of AFC North games.
Yes, I mean the offense is there. Don't get me wrong, but when you cannot stop anybody, man, you're just not gonna win games. You can't. As good as the offense is, they're still young. Burrow's barely going to be in his second year, coming off an injury. Can you rely on him to push those wide receivers down the field against NFL defenses? Maybe.
To keep them standing up.
Yes.
Exactly.
The game is won and lost in the trenches.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So can you count on that? And the answer there is no. Will they have some explosive games? Will they move the ball between the 20-yard lines? Yes, but to get into the end zone, you might see a lot of field goals, and it's just not there. They're just too young. Their quarterback's hurt, and like Ben said, can't name a guy on the defense. You have to take the under here.
I can see my favorite bet on the Bengals here is Jamar Chase to win offensive rookie of the year.
I totally agree there.
I like the odds at plus 750. I'm following the trend of Justin Jefferson. He won it last year for the Minnesota Vikings. He won Offensive Rookie of the Year. Another LSU receiver. I like Jamar Chase a lot to win that Offensive Rookie of the Year, especially if he's going to be getting some love from Joe Burrow. But I think it is a crowded wide receiver room. They're talented. Tyler Boyd. Is it Tyler or Taj Boyd? I don't want
Taj Boyd was the old Clemson QB.
There you go. Tyler Boyd. And then T. Higgins, two talented wide receivers.
Clemson as well.
Are you taking do you like Jamar Chase as a fantasy prospect, Ben?
I would like.
Come
Boyd.
on, answer the boys.
I would only take Boyd. What I want to ask Justin is, I asked Ron if he would draft Joe Burrow. So Justin, Matthew Stafford or Joe Burrow? Who are you drafting?
Matthew Stafford.
That's a good one.
Roland,
give me Joe Burrow. Give me Joe Burrow all day.
Me, my turn.
Fantasy points. You don't have to win games. Fantasy points.
I'm quoting here. I'm quoting the jam. I'm in the pocket like Burrow. I'm going with Burrow, baby. I'm going with Burrow. Man. It's what Cincinnati was last year. They were the Joe Burrow show until the injury, and he was a rookie that showed out. He was. He did produce for the hype that he had. So, yes, he's injured, but
I think he was a lock for Rookie of the Year had he not gotten hurt. I think he's a gamer. So I saw him play against Texas and whoop our ass, wave at us goodbye. Wow. The guy oozes confidence. I think he is what Cincinnati needs. He's a franchise quarterback. He has a wide receiving core. I just don't like them not going offensive line in the draft. And I honestly feel that was I don't know if he has this much pull, but I want to say it was 50-50 Joe Burrow and the front office because it's an LSU receiver who Joe Burrow played with in college. I don't think that it was a need based on the wide receiving core that they had. And they
to build that confidence.
They got to keep him standing. But like I said, I feel like he had input in it. And I might just be giving him too much cred already as just, a rookie or a second-year guy. But I don't know what you all think about that, Yeah,
you could see a very college-esque offense in Cincinnati this year. You don't have them. You don't have them under center a lot to help. At least give them a couple seconds before that those defensive ends are on his ass. So which leads to Mixon. Not in the typical I formation. He's out here to the slot. Not the slot, but spread to the side, little dump offs there. So to protect Burrow. And let's play the team total overs on the Bengals this year.
Yeah. No, game overs. Game overs on the Bengals.
Did somebody already ask Mix? I know I asked it earlier, but Mixon or Najee Harris?
Najee.
You take Najee? Justin?
Najee.
Najee all day? Okay.
Najee's my guy. I think he's going to be rookie of the year.
Okay.
I mean,
nice.
Right.
I like that.
That goes to the quarterbacks, just. That goes to the quarterbacks.
Well, we'll see. But anything else for fantasy, Ben? Anything else that we missed?
No, look, there's some pretty good running backs in this division. Najee Harris, J.K. Dobbins. I know Justin has a lot of love for Najee. We got Nick Chubb. We got Kareem Hunt. We got Joe Mixon. Who will be the leading rusher at the end of the year in this division for the running backs?
But fantasy-wise or yards?
Leading rusher, yards-wise in this division.
Nick Chubb.
Give me Nick Chubb. I think because you can't go. I'm sorry. Yeah, you can't go Mixon, obviously, because they're going to be behind, so they're
going to be losing a lot.
Yeah,
I like Najee's opportunities, but
I
just feel like Najee might be more of a short yardage, goal line, get you in there from the 3, the 2, the 1, rather than be busting off runs for the Steelers.
And then we could also ask who's got the best O line in the division, and that typically should go to the team to the leading rusher. So who's got the best O line?
The Browns.
The Ravens have had the leading rushing game in the last couple of years, so you might think the Ravens. I think no, but their O line. The Ravens.
Oh yeah, but I'm saying
the fact that Dobbins and Lamar are going to get you those yards. Baker's not going to be much of a threat, but you have Kareem Hunt and you have Nick Chubb as well. Yeah. So I would think Nick Chubb would be the leading rusher. Just based off of his positioning on the team and his talent, where he was drafted, all that shit. Yeah. But I think that's going to be something to watch out for because there's a lot of talented running backs in that division.
Good point. Very good point. And I think that kind of wraps it up, huh, boys?
I think that's all I got on the Bengals and the AFC North. So just to recap, we have the season bet, that the podcast put out there for the Ravens, season total over 10.5.
Yeah, we can take this Bengals trash off.
Yeah, I think we got Justin, Ben, and myself on the Ravens to win the AFC North. I think we got Ron.
Ron's barking. Hey, Ron, there you go.
That's a tough bark.
Can't wait till my Baker all white jersey comes.
When you hear that bark, you just gotta call the dog pound.
We have a little podcast bet between me and Ben. I took Lamar Jackson to
you realize you were fucked. You realize?
Oh yeah, because I looked at that rushing total last year and I was like, dang, it's a little closer than I thought it was. But I can't go back. I can't go back on on my.
You're gonna need an MVP season, pal.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm hoping for because I like I said, I would take Lamar Jackson as maybe at the back end of the 4th or maybe top of the 5th. But anyways. That's all I have for this division. I'm thinking next week we might post a little poll to decide who's going to be the division that we go over next week. I'm thinking myself, I'm leaning towards the AFC West, but maybe we should put out a little poll on all of our socials and let the fans or the viewers decide.
Or maybe we go back to the NFC since we did AFC this week.
That's true. Any teams or any division that you guys want to see?
Oh, come on,
Can we
get to the NFC?
All right. NFC East it is.
We'll go over the NFC
No. We'll save the best for last. I'm down to say. You know what? Let's say wait. Let's save the NFC East for last because the Cowboys are on
Hard
Knocks. Okay. So we can talk about the Hard Knocks, and the NFC East at the end. But obviously, before we go, here comes the plug again. It's on the bottom of the screen. Bet King Online, man. Twitter. Everybody's got a Twitter. Bet King Online. Follow them on Twitter. That's all we got to say. We can't give you too much info, but it's there. The promo's crazy. All right. So you got to do the WTBS. We talking about sports. That's us, Roland, Justin, and Ben. Thanks y'all for hearing, for listening, and Ron. Yeah. Yeah, man. Bet King Online. Do not forget the season's coming, and you're gonna want to start your deposits now, and there's a reason why you're gonna want to start your deposits now, because it's the promos. It's sick, bro. It's crazy. If you're gonna want to start, if you've never started before, you got to start now because that promo is sick.
Ron, is the promo gonna blow their mind?
I mean, it might.
Ron.
Yeah. Cue the emoji with the blowing my mind.
Well, that's it for me.
Good show, boys. Good show.
We'll be back with another division soon.
The Ravens.
Yeah, I wish I could do a Ravens song like.
Oh shoot!
I'm supposed to be the franchise player, and we're in here talking about practice. I mean, listen, we talking about practice, not a game, not a game, not a game. We talking about practice, not a game, not a game.
Me. Bam, bam. Me, man.
Not a game.
Slap that like she scored 30.
What are we even talking about, man? We talking about sports here.